Well, you know, it's interesting. Growing up in an industry, you can't help but sort of you yourself change what you want from it and what challenges you. And so when I was younger, it was like, you know, I thought it was photography, which was going to sort of feed something to be part of the story. And then it was kind of music for a bit, and then it was maybe bringing the two together. And then it was just eventually like, I need to direct, actually. All of these pieces, like, I equate directing with like owning a restaurant. Like, you can't really own a restaurant and start hiring out people unless you've done every single job. Like, you know, I've washed dishes, I've hosted it, I've eaten at the restaurant, like I've cleaned up. And I just feel like I've been on so many sets just through the natural osmosis is that I really know how to run a set, or how I would want one to be run. And so I guess that's like, you know, some inner child fantasy of growing up and being a first AD, because, you know, they have all the power, really. Which was, I got to direct this little short with a good friend of mine, Becky Stark, and her band Lavender Diamond. And it was literally like, I was like, wow, I think I figured out what I want to do when I grow up. You know what I mean? It was like all these interconnections. You talk about tentacles, but it was just like, wow, on every level, this is what I've been trying to explore. Well, it's been an exciting year. I feel like it's kind of been an uprising. I feel like, particularly joining such an amazing sort of phenomenon of a film like The Hunger Games, and then really kind of being delicate and careful about what other projects to sort of allow to be all part of it. And I mean, obviously working with Paul Thomas Anderson on Inherent Vice, like I would pull cables for him, I would grab coffee. Like, I think he is the master of American cinema, standing alive amongst us. And it was just the biggest gift of my life, being able to work with him. I hope we get to do it again. And then, yeah, I went and did this other little film called Angelica, and that was kind of a Victorian period piece of corsets and craziness and sort of hysterical female madness, which was nice to go from Hunger Games, which is another form of hysterical female madness, but actually Joanna Mason's quite, I think she's a little bit more masculine. And there's definitely no corsets involved, which is nice. Well, actually, no, I'm completely wrong, because some of the clothes we have to wear is crazy in the Capitol. Marilyn Mark, I worked with when I was 12 years old, behind the scenes of Bastard Out of Carolina, and she sort of sparked or planted a seed of, you know, rebellion in my mind. And I was always on sets when I was younger, so interested in what the cinematographer was doing, like just like, what's that lens, and let me look at that light, and, you know, really got to work with some incredible DPs that really kind of took me under their wing. And then when I was 18, I was like, I kind of want to just study photography, which is a small form of storytelling, because that's what's important to me. That's what I love. I want to isolate one single frame and really learn how to manipulate every angle of storytelling within that, you know? So I thought photography was a really good place to kind of start. It's interesting talking about Donnie Darko, particularly like with joining such a giant fandom and being down at Comic-Con, and I was like, oh wow, like if Donnie Darko was at Comic-Con, this would have been like a whole, like Comic-Con didn't even exist then. You know, I mean, and not to sort of, I'm just like being like, oh, I was a part of something that was the beginning of a giant fan-based movement, going back towards saying, I will support and honor and make my life the films that I love and I care about, and I will lay it all down, and I will spend the money, and I will spend the time, and I will create the blogs, and I will create the internet, and I will make this film my life. Whereas I feel like that kind of fan mentality is a new thing. I think this is only within the past 15 years of our society, is that the people are really like fandoms. They exist now, you know, and it is kind of interesting to sort of see the parallel between like 12 years ago working on Donnie Darko, where it was such a little sprinkling, you know, it was just the beginning of this sort of revolution of like passion in film. But in a different way, you know, it's not just that snobby, like independent movie theater, you know, passion where it's like you have all these collections of movies that you never watch. This is like, they live it, they love it, they give everything to it. And for me, I think that is just so admirable. You know, it's such a beautiful, pure passion that I think that the internet's actually given birth to, but definitely Donnie Darko was on the forefront of that, you know.